Hi guys, and welcome to another tutorial. This tutorial is a sort of request from Scott Lang. He saw the blood splatter and particle system tutorial and he wondered if this could be changed into a paintball system, and the answer is yes, it can, and it's really quite simple. I made a similar system earlier on in my academic year as part of one of my projects, so I know that we can do this in quite a simple way. So I'm going to go through that with you guys. The first thing that we're going to do is we're actually going to make a texture. Now, I normally give you guys textures, and I'm still going to give you this one, so don't panic. You're still going to get it, but I'm actually going to run through how to create a texture for such a thing, because in previous videos we've covered materials, so we've made materials, we've covered using textures, we've covered particle effects and blueprints, visual effects, and all sorts of things. But I've never actually shown you guys how to make a texture. I always just give you a brief explanation. So this time I'm going to show you guys how to do it. Excuse me. So I have Photoshop open here, or if you have your image processing software of choice. Sometimes the words get lost and I have to just like pluck them out of the air. Now, what I have here are just 4 splats that I found on Google. These are what I'm going to use. Now you'll notice these are all different colors. Now I don't want these colors at all. I just want this as an alpha. So if I just quickly undo, oops, beyond this, you'll see these are all on different layers. So I can turn all these off. Now, the reason that I have this divided, as you can see, my guide is at exactly 512 and here is exactly 512 as well, because this is a 1024 texture, which is powers of 2. So if you don't know what a power of 2 is, it's basically you go from 2 and you multiply that by 2. So you go 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, 512, 1024, 2048, 4096, and these are our texture resolutions. So because they are powers of 2, they can MIP better. So MIPing is basically it's like levels of detail. So the further away you get from a texture, the easier time it's going to have recalculating the pixels so that things don't look weird and distorted while you're far away, or up close, because it has to do it up close as well, because if something's only 1012 and you're in a space where it's covering twice as much size, your engine needs to know how to scale that properly. So powers of 2 does that really well. So why are they in their own section of 512? Well, because this is going to be used as a sub UV, like in the blood splatters. So each one of these is essentially going to be a different frame that we're going to pull out of the material at random. But you'll notice that these are coloured and these are not really going to work for us. So these are all on a different layer. I'm going to merge them really quick so they're just one single layer. And I'm going to go to my image. I'm going to go to adjustments, and then in hue saturation I'm just going to take the saturation away to make them all grey. Still not quite what we want, because we want these to be fully opaque in an alpha. So what we're going to do is go to image, adjustments, and we're going to go to levels. Now here we have these 3 lovely arrows, yay, and if you move them around you'll notice that you get some really different changes. If we move this one up this way, we get darker, and if we move this one up this way, So what we want to do is basically we want to blow the white out as much as we can. So I'm going to take the middle one, which is just grey, and we'll push this towards black until it's pretty much on top. And I'm going to do the same with the white. And what this is going to do is make our whites really white. There we go, really white whites. Now these are quite low res little jiggly jiggers. You can see these are not very great images that I found, but you know, if you want to draw some of these you can. I don't have an alpha channel, so I might make an alpha channel really quick so we can see how the alpha channel looks. So if you hold Control and left click on a layer, it will choose everything in that layer. So you can see here I've got it all selected. because these are just black boxes with white in. There we are. So I can go to channels, I can add a new channel which will add the alpha channel, and oops, it would help if I would copy things in the RGB. So with this selected, I'm going to copy, and then in the alpha channel I'm going to paste. Now that means that we now have an alpha channel with that detail in, as you can see there. Woohoo! Now it looks weird, it's red because we have the alpha in there, and basically red means that that's an area that isn't included in the alpha mask. But this is what we need, this is all we really have to worry about. So I'm going to quickly save this out. Now where am I saving to? Over here, into my materials, tutorials. I'm just going to sing to myself while I do this. La da da da, whoops, da 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 da. My actual folder isn't in there yet. So have I made my folder? I have. It's paintball_tutorial. So I'm just going to quickly make this, and it should be okay. Paintball_tutorial, and then if I put this in here, come on, and I'm going to change this to a targa, and this is going to be splats_t. And then if we head into our Unreal, here it comes, import splats_t. Now you'll notice that we have this all nice now because we have our alpha. We can turn these off, and with the alpha on, you can see what we're actually getting. Yay, nice. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make a material, and we're going to call this paint_splat_m. I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to go to the material domain and change this to a default decal. Now, because this is a decal, we're going to get this down here that says it needs to be blend model translucent. So in blend mode, change opaque to translucent. Now we have a teeny tiny box. Come on, you. We're going to grab the splats and drag this in. And now what we're going to get is we are going to get a sub UV function. And this is what's going to let us use our add different frames. So I'm going to hold S and left click for a parameter, and I'm going to call this frame. I'm going to default this to 1, and I'm going to hold 2 and left click for a 2 vector and plug this into sub images. Now this is, you can see 1 image and 2 image and 1 image and 2 images, so this is 2 by 2. So I'm going to set this to 2 by 2. And now this will not plug into the sub UV. Oh no, it won't, because we don't want a texture sample. What we want is a texture object. If I could spell, that would be brilliant. There we go, texture object. And has it got splats? It does, because I have the splats already selected. That will go in there. We can delete the texture sample. And now we have an alpha in this, so we should be able to use this in opacity. There we go, you can see the splat there. Now this is splat from frame 1, and I'll show you how we can change this soon. Now what I'm going to do is what am I going to do? I'm actually going to hold a 3 and left click for a 3 vector, and I'm going to right click this, and I'm going to convert this to a parameter, and I'm going to call this color. There we go. Now, just so I can see things, I'm going to change this to red by default. And I'm going to plug this into base color. And now we should get a red splat. There we are. Now I'm just going to also plug this into emissive, just so that this is seen a little bit better, because it's a bit too opaque. There we go, a nice cartoony splat. Awesome. Now, here where we have the frame, if we were to change this to a 1, we'll get the second frame in the texture object. There we go, you see now that the splat has changed. If I choose 2, I'll get the third, and if I choose 3, I will get the 4th. Come on, you can do it. There we go. Now, the reason it's lower is because counters in Unreal start at 0, so we're not getting frames 1 to 4, we're actually getting frames 0 to 3. 0 counts as an object itself. So there we are. It's a little bit confusing because sometimes you'll be counting, you'll be like, oh, I need the 7th, and you'll choose 7, and that will give you the 8th, but you get used to it. So this is our material pretty much done, I believe, so I'm going to apply that, and I'm going to close this down. So the next thing we need to do is we actually need to make this actually work. We have to add this to something. So we're going to head to our root content folder, and in first person BP under blueprints we have the first person projectile, and this is where we're actually going to make our paint splatters work. So I'm going to open this up, and this is all that is inside the lovely projectile. You might have your own projectile. You'll be able to do this exactly the same way. You can just add this into the start or the end, whichever you need. So we have the event hit. Basically, this is going to check when the projectiles hit something. So it's going to say, has it hit something? If it has, do this. Da, da, da. So we can add impulse. So this will knock whatever it is out the way, and then it will destroy itself. Now, do we have this set to bounce? This may be set to bounce. I'm not sure if it is. Projectile. Let's see if this has got bounce anywhere. Yes. So if you choose the actual projectile, which is one of the components on the left, we've got bounce. Now we don't want bounce. I mean, we'll leave bounce on for now so I can show you. So what do we want to do? On event hit, we need to make something spawn. Now the something that we're going to spawn is a decal. So we're going to spawn decal at location. And now the reason we're doing location rather than attached is because if we attach it to something, it's going to attach it to a specific point on that object, rather than the exact location of the hit. So we're going to plug the event hit into the spawn decal, which breaks the rest of it for now, but that's fine, we don't need that right now. Now what we're going to do is, inside the material, we're going to find it, which we called Paintball Splat. Yep, Paint Splat. So we select Paint Splat. The decal size, what are we going to have the decal size? I'm going to go and get a random float in range, and I'm going to set this to minimum of 25 and a maximum of 60, and I'm going to plug this into the decal size, and this will convert the float to a vector, so all three will have the same size. Excuse me. Now what we're going to do is we're going to grab the hit location, and that's going to be the location of the spawn decal, and then from hit normal we are going to it's rotation from X vector, so rotation from X vector, and we're going to plug this into the rotation. Basically this means that the decal will always be spawned based on the normal of the object that we hit. So it's going to look at the face that's hit, and it's going to rotate the decal to make sure that it's always facing outwards from there. Yay! Now I'm going to leave the lifespan at 0, which is infinite for now. We're going to clean that up because you don't want to have like infinite decals able to just like last forever and spawn non-stop. Because you're going to get performance loss. Performance loss is the word I'm looking for. Yes. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to change some stuff. So the return value here, we're actually going to create dynamic material instance. There we are. And because it's a decal, it's always going to be a material, so the target has to be return value here. And then from the return value, we're going to set scalar parameter value. And this is going to be frame in the name, or whatever you called it that controls your frame. And then we're going to get a random float in range. No, we're not. We don't want a float. What we want, because we want a random integer in range. Now the reason we want an integer and not a float, we'll set this quickly, minimum 0, maximum 3. The reason we want an integer is because an integer is a full number. A float is a number that can have a decimal place. So 1.1 is a float, but 1 is an integer. And if you get 1.1 from an integer, it will floor itself down to 1. Or if it's above 0.5, it will seal itself up to 2. Now the reason that we're going to use an integer is because we have to have a whole number for this one. And the reason we have to have a whole number is just because it's cleaner. So if we head into the material really quickly, tutorials, content there is spelled wrong, that's very, very nice. Now if we say in our frame, if our random integer decides that it wants to be 1.5, then we'll see that you're getting multiple things on top of each other, which is not good. We don't want multiple frames. So we'll quickly apply that to set it back to 0. So there we'll plug the random int into the float value and it will convert to float. But at this point it's always 0, 1, 2 or 3 with no decimal places, so that's fine. Now from the create dynamic material instance we need to drag off again, and this time we are going to set, which one are we setting? Set vector parameter value, yes, vector. So set vector parameter value, and we're going to call this color. And now you'll notice that we have this blue pin here, which is a linear color structure. Now we can choose a color that we want specifically, but I don't want a specific color. I want this to be randomized. Now, if you don't want this to be randomized and you have a specific set of teams, you can add a variable. So over here you can add variable, and if we call this like, if we call this team1 underscore color, then we can go to variable and we can actually say we want this to be a linear color. And then if we compile that, we can actually give this its specific color, and yay, now team 1 is red. And you can get this, and you can plug this in, and that will make sure that it always spawns red. But I don't want to do this. What I want to actually do is I want to make my own color, and I want it to be randomized every time that a projectile is fired. So I'm going to get random float in range, and I want it 0 to 1, and I'm going to have this 3 times. Now the reason I'm having this 3 times is because they're going to represent my color channels, R, G and B. And the reason I'm using 0 to 1 is because anything above a 1 is potentially emissive and can glow. Now I don't want the paint to be able to glow. If you want some glowing paint, then by all means go above the maximum of 1. But I don't want that for this. Now I'm going to right click, I'm going to make color. Whoops, yep, American spelling, there it is. So there's make color, and I'm actually just going to say return value. Ooh, this is the wrong one. Make color. Yes, we need the, not the, see how I have 2 here? We have this one that's struct, and we have this one here that's under color. We want the one that's under color, which is under math, and that lets us put in float ranges. So that's the red, this is going to be the green, this is going to be the blue, and we're going to leave the alpha at 1, which means that it's fully visible. And then the return value is what we're going to plug into the value. So it's going to always spawn a random color. So now we're going to plug this into the branch, because this is all happening before we ever let the bullet bounce things around. And we'll compile that, and if we're going to play, we should be able to, there we are. Now this moved, so the splat's a little bit dodgy, but there you can see it spawned a splat and it's bouncing around and leaving splats everywhere. But you'll notice we're getting different frames and we're getting different colors. Now none of these are particularly bright. I want a bright color. Now there we go. I mean, you might be able to hear the sound. I have desktop sound off while I'm recording, but it's coming through my headphones very, very loud. So I'm just going to quickly turn this down so you guys can't hear that anymore, because that will get annoying. Let's just quickly try that again. There we go. Now you'll notice that even though these are hitting the floor instead, ooh, there's a stacked together. They're still rotating and facing the right way. This is because we're using the object normal, and you'll see here, because it's hit here and then it's also spawned this onto the floor, we get a little bit of stretching. That unfortunately can't be avoided. Ooh, that's quite nice there, but if we knock that away, woo, the decals will stay there. So we probably don't want to have these spawn on everything. We can add a check to see if the object has physics enabled, and if it does, then spawn attached. In fact, maybe we can spawn it attached. Let's try that, because you know we're down the rabbit hole. Why not? Why not go for it now? So let's see. Spawn decal attached. Can we actually use location? We can. So let's test this. Because as I say, I'm doing this without any prior plan, so we can just make things up as we go, guys. Yeah. So we're gonna plug this in, plug that in. Just break that for now because we don't want to have any kind of doubles. We're gonna plug this into the decal size, this into the rotation, and the hit location into the location, and then maybe that will work. Let's see. Nope. That doesn't enjoy it so much. Not spawning any, and we get errors. Yeah, it doesn't like that. So let's go back into that real quick. Do we want this? We want to. Let's try snapping it to target and keeping world scale. I should have read the error code. Yeah, that doesn't work. What does the error say? Oh, it's not getting any return value on this for some reason. Oh, because we want to create a dynamic material instance off the new one, because it's fickle like that. You can't just switch these instances out. That might now be workable. Go away, errors. Nope. Call me a liar. There we go. Okay, so we're not going to use attach. So, oops, wrong blueprint. And here we go. So we're just going to get rid of this real quick again. Get rid of that and plug this back in and create dynamic material instance. So we'll just ignore that. We just want to spawn decal at location. And there we are. And I'm just going to quickly, for the sake of glowy glowness, let's give these a possibility to glow. What you do? Oh, that needs to be plugged back into there. There we go. Can you guys glow now? Ooh. See, that's what you can get with some neon paint kind of effects, which is quite cool. Now, you'll notice because we oh, the Holy Trinity. Now, because the balls obviously lose velocity and lose bounce, and will eventually roll to a stop if we can not hit a box, they're gonna cause like this sort of effect where they smudge along the floor. That's why we're turning bounce off on the projectile. We no longer need the projectile to be able to bounce because it's a paintball. The paintball's gonna pop. So in projectile, we'll search for bounce. We're gonna turn that off, and we'll go back into here, and now they don't bounce. Instead, they do. Hello. that's a bit of a weird one. Okay. Now, why are you not destroying yourself? Let's just not give it any impulse on anything. Let's see if it will. We still have the odd one that's just getting stuck. So maybe what we want to do. I keep opening the level blueprint today. I don't know why I'm going. I see. So this is only happening if the other object is simulating physics. So we're actually going to reattach that, and we're just going to take the false and plug that into the destroy actor as well. So either way, as soon as the projectile hits something, it should just blow up. Yep, there we go. So now I have no idea why that wasn't destroying them anyway. Ah, level blueprint again! You see? I'm like addicted to that thing. So there we are. We have to make sure that from the branch of false here, we destroy the actor, because it needs to be destroyed anyway. I think it's because previously it's got a lifetime lifespan. It doesn't have a lifespan. It probably has it in here. We have. Do we have a lifespan? Yeah, a lifespan of 3 seconds. So they were lasting for 3 seconds. So when they, at that point, when they weren't hitting something with physics, this was never triggering, which meant that they were just lasting for their full 3 seconds before they popped. So take this false, plug this into destroy actor, because we've removed bounce, which means that they're getting stuck to walls that aren't simulating physics. So there it is. Now I'm just gonna quickly turn these back down because that bugs me to 1. There we go. There we have a basic paintball gun that sticks paint splats to your objects and surroundings. Now, in places such as these things, it's a little bit dodgy. They need a fix. I guess we could check to see if an object's doing whatchamacallit. Yep. Simulating physics. We can check if an object's simulating physics. The same as here. So if it's simulating physics, then spawn decal attached to it rather than at location. And then you've got to just set it up for attached if this is true. So that's it, guys. That is Paintball. Thanks to Scott Lang for making me do this one. It's been fun. So I shall see you next time.